Hello and welcome to the British Dapper, and today we're talking about adding colour to your suit wear, men's style tips. So one of the questions I frequently get asked is, how do I change from being a conservative person to wearing more colour in my suit wear and my daily life? Now, I'm going to focus today on suits primarily, but the same principle applies to most wears that you would wear where you're wearing a jacket and a pair of trousers, even if they are tweed, for example. But one of the first things we need to consider is, what image do you want to project in the first place? If it's a very business orientated look, then I think you're safe to stay with the traditional muted colours on a plain suit or a pinstripe suit backdrop. And that is very typically the sort of look you'll see through the 40s, 50s and even into the 60s, before you start seeing a little bit of colour being introduced in general office wear when we're looking at a formal setting. And even then it's quite subdued in the colour that's used. Traditionally it'll be a white shirt, no other colour, and possibly a little bit of a fleck of colour in a very muted navy tie or black tie, something along those lines. Very rarely would you see any bright colours being used. But in this day and age, that's not really very typically seen, and most places you'll see people not even wearing a suit. So when you do wear one, you need to question, why are you wearing it? Is it because you want to stand out? And if you do, then by wearing those plain muted colours, it's very officious and quite formal looking, which is great for funerals and special events, maybe even job interviews, but they don't express your personality very much. And I think some people hide behind that because they're a little bit shy of using colour. So all today's video is about is really looking at adding colour to your suit wear and giving you a few tips along the way of how to maybe inject that little bit of colour. Now, I'm wearing this deliberately today. It's quite a bright coloured gingham shirt, and with a pocket square that goes with that. Now, we're wearing a navy suit today with this, but if I was to wear a coloured tie, maybe that might be a little bit too much with the colour, because really we inject colour in three main areas, I would suggest, which is either the shirt, the tie, the pocket square. And I tend to stick to this rule where possible of two of those three items have colour, one is a little bit more subdued. Not always the case, but it's a good rule of thumb. So for example, quite a gregarious and outgoing shirt and a pocket square, and I felt that a plain navy tie going with the suit just brings it in a little bit more and doesn't make it too harsh. I could have worn a burgundy tie or even a pattern tie with this, and that might make it a little bit too loud. And the focal point, it really is this area here. So the shirt does make that look where it draws the eye. So just colour is great, but if you overdo it, it can look very clown-like in effect. Now, gingham shirts are one of those things you either love them or hate them. It's a little bit like Marmite. But here's another version of that. And in this video, you can see that I'm wearing a dark blue version of this gingham shirt. And I think it goes quite well with that look. Again, the pocket square is quite more subdued. So we've got a blue, navy, silver, and some slight reds in that pocket square, and that brings that look a little bit more in a somber look. It's not too bright and too outgoing, and I think that look could be worn in everyday wear, maybe even in the office environment in a semi-formal manner. I wouldn't suggest that this is a formal look, but if you want to inject a bit of colour and you don't want it to be too bright and too gregarious, maybe this is the way forward for you. But the shirt definitely is a statement piece. And talking about shirts, obviously the colours can be quite effective. So for example, if you're going to wear a pink shirt as an example, and maybe if you're going to wear a tie over that, then maybe it needs to be a little bit darker than the shirt rather than lighter. So maybe something a little bit more like, in this case, a magenta colour. It's a little bit more solid, albeit it's got a little pattern in it. And the pocket square has that slight red edge to it, trimming, and also pink in the actual pattern itself. So quite a loud presentation, if you like, but certainly a statement piece, and not, I would suggest, too gregarious, too bold for a wear in the office. So another version of colour injected through the shirt might be a pale blue shirt. Now, pale blue is great, but when you start to wear other blues with it, it can look a little bit insipid. So just be mindful of that when you're wearing one. And here is an example of wearing a blue shirt with a navy pinstripe three-piece suit. But in this case, we've injected that colour a little bit more like a hot red in that, and picked up some creams in that and some light flecks in the pocket square. And I think that goes really well with this overall look. But the blue adds another dimension. If we were to wear a white shirt with this, I don't think you'd get quite the same informality. It might be a little bit more official. So maybe if you're going to some more official events, then maybe that might be the way to do it, by using a white shirt instead of the blue shirt. Another example here is where we're wearing a Prince of Wales suit. Now this is a three-piece suit, and it's a grey, smoky grey, so it's light tints of brown and grey in there, and it goes particularly well with a blue shirt. And with that, I've used a pale blue tie and pocket square on that, and I think the combination looks quite good, quite fresh, and not a bad look for day-to-day wear really. Now when it comes to a charcoal grey suit, because they can be very officious and very grey and dull purely on the overall aesthetic, then if you want to add colour to that, then maybe add a little bit of a blue colour in the shirt. And in this case I've used what I call a licorice allthorpe tie, and that goes particularly well because it has multiple colours in it, adds a little bit of life to the overall look, and lifts that grey as well. Now there are black stripes going through that tie as well, so that sort of harmonises a little bit more with the greys that we're wearing in the suit. But the pocket square is something where we need to add a little bit of colour as well. So when we're talking about that grey suit again, what about when we're wearing a white shirt for that? And in this case I've added some light, almost baby blue colours into the pocket square and into the tie, and it's very much almost a wedding vibe going through those colour schemes, but again it lifts the overall look. And might I say, at this time of the year when things are starting to get dark and grey and wintry months, then maybe we need to inject a little bit of colour to lift our overall spirits in our day-to-day wear. But as you can see from this, the actual light blues goes really well on that white background and lifts the overall look from something that is more grey like in the tie or in the overall look. But if you want to moderate the colour that you use for that grey suit, then maybe look at something along these lines where we've got a white shirt here but with some reds in the actual tie and tied that in with the pocket square that's got some little reds in it as well. And overall that does meet the criteria of almost not formal but certainly business look. And depending on the shoes you wear with that, the overall ensemble would do quite nicely in the office in a day-to-day sort of setting. So the other thing to think about is the colours that we wear in a suit. So for example, here is a Prince of Wales pattern, but it's got a berry overcheck. Now that berry overcheck is the accent that I used for in the tie and the pocket square in this case. And you can see that there's similar little spots of colour coming through, and it does lift the overall look of that suit. But equally we could have worn a solid burgundy coloured tie and pocket square, but I think it just needed a little bit of a lift. It looks a little bit complicated, a little bit complex in the overall colour scheme, but I think it still works really well. And what I would say is don't be afraid to try and experiment with different colours and different looks with a particular suit. So one of my favourite colours that I wear with a suit is a purple tie. And in this case, we're wearing the same navy suit I've got now, but we're actually wearing a purple striped tie with that and a pocket square that's got similar colours in it. And that lifts the overall look, and I think quite a pleasant colour to wear, quite a strong colour to wear, but it does lift it up from a basic navy blue tie, white shirt, navy suit, that sort of look. So it does elevate it a little bit in its colour, which I think goes really well. And purple is one of those colours that can migrate into other suit wears as well. So for example, in this case, we've gone back to that smoky grey three-piece suit, which has got a Prince of Wales pattern on it. But we've tied that in with some purples in the tie, and you'll notice in the tie there's some blue paisleys in there, and that ties in nicely with, there's a slight blue stripe going through the suit. And the pocket square is also picked up in the purple hue as well, which gives it overall, on the white backdrop of a shirt, gives it a really pleasant lift. And I think it's something that a lot of people forget, is that even with a white shirt, with those other adds of colour, it can really make a suit look vibrant and colourful overall. So whilst this does look quite bold out front as a colour, the pink shirt with the tie, the pocket square, I think overall, as you can see here, it's not overstated. And with the shoes, in this case they're Loke design shoes, they're a Derby brogue medallion shoe. They go particularly well with this overall look. And that is the fourth element that I haven't mentioned today, but I'm going to talk about it now briefly, and that is the shoes that you wear. And the colour of the shoes also depends on the formality. So for example, if you're wearing a burgundy pair of shoes, then maybe you're not looking at an officious look, so that's a little bit more of a casual look. So maybe it would go with something with a burgundy tie with this ensemble and some burgundy shoes. But I try and balance the formality levels. So for example, if I'm wearing quite an outgoing colour in the shirt or the tie, then I try and balance that by the other items being more officious. So more formal shoes, black shoes, and it sort of balances it out on the eye. But you could also have brightly coloured shoes as well. And you can have them multi-dyed, you can have them patinaed in different colours. And that can really add a lot of your personality into the overall look. And you can tie that in with the tie or the shirt or pocket squares, and you get a much more overall injection of colour, even with a very formal statement piece like a three-piece suit. So it's playing with those colours, and don't be afraid to do that. I think overall, try it, look in the mirror and experiment. You'd be surprised how many people comment or compliment you on a certain look when you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable wearing it. For example, this one here is quite bold, and a lot of people would say, oh, I wouldn't wear that, it's too bold, too bright. But in this case, it seems to work when it's muted down with a navy tie and a subtle pocket square rather than the bright pink one. So I'm interested in what your views are on adding colour to a suit. I know it's going to polarise the views of some people because some people are more traditional, but some want to break away from that and move into the area where they're adding colour, which is a sartorial challenge in its own right. But let me know what you think. Have you got an opinion on it? Have you got some ideas of how to inject colour into wearing a daily suit wear? Let me know. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to subscribe, then please feel free to do so. We have a Buy Me a Coffee page, so if you'd like to make a contribution to the channel, then please feel free to do so. We also love constructive comments, so if you'd like to make some, jot them down below. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And if you've got a question you'd like to pose to us or you'd like an answer to, then why not jot it down? We'll try and answer your question for you. We also like ideas for future videos, so if you want to make a contribution and make a suggestion about future content, then please, again, jot it in the notes below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. The next video could be something that you've recommended or suggested. So until next time, take care.